Hey there, and welcome back to the perhaps three or four people that watched the RadioBoss videos that I posted a few months ago. I am Ken the Metal Professor on WVLP. That's our local nonprofit community radio station here in Valparaiso, Indiana. And a few months ago, I had put some videos up online as I was learning how to use the software RadioBoss, which can be used to drive automation for 24/7 radio type programming. And I had started using it because the Disc Jockey Pro, I think it was called, which was an older radio station software. It was running on a Windows XP. The computer there was about to crap out, and we knew it. And that software was not supported anymore. So we had to learn how to use RadioBoss very quickly. And so I was making those videos just to sort of help organize for myself what I was learning. And we have been able, quite a while ago, to get ourselves up and running 24/7. And so I thought I would go back and give a quick overview of how we have it set up. And maybe this will help other people that are going to use RadioBoss. This gap of a few months is because the radio station bought its own copy of RadioBoss, and I wanted to eventually just purchase my own copy at home so that I could set up a 24/7 playlist environment with shows being dropped in to mimic our radio station operation, so that I can test things and help figure stuff out that needs to be figured out without messing up what's happening on the air at the radio station. Okay. In about 10 minutes, my time here, it'll be the top of the hour, and you can see right now the RadioBoss window is up and running, and in 10 minutes a show is going to drop into the playlist. So at WVLP we have shows that people create, sometimes live, sometimes pre-recorded like mine. They don't fill up the entire day of programming, certainly not the overnight hours. So we have automated playlists generated, and they basically play all the time. And when somebody's show is due to start, that supplants the playlist for that certain period of time. So I wanted to capture this when one of my shows goes up, and so that's going to happen. Well, now in about 10 minutes for me. What you can see right now is the RadioBoss window. We've got the event scheduler window. We have the playlist, and then down here is just sort of the log window screen. So really, to do 24/7 programming, you need a minimum number of commands. You need to be able to generate a playlist for the next day. I think in my previous videos I was still at making 3 8-hour playlists to piece together. We decided, nah, never mind, let's just make a 24-hour playlist once a day. Then you play that playlist. We started at midnight. We have station IDs that have to get played at the top of every hour. And then there's going to be an event for every show that we want to plop in. Now for me, during my testing, I'm just plugging in 2 shows just to see how they go while I'm testing. So here in the playlist window, I don't know if it's big enough for you to see the details, but the boldface item is what's currently playing. Right now at 3:51, there's just a little liner, kind of an informal station ID. And at 4 o'clock, what's going to happen is this event, which is going to play one of my shows pre-recorded, is going to get inserted into the playlist and take over for a 2-hour block. So we'll get to watch how the station ID behaves and how the insertion of that show behaves, and then I will show you the commands that make it happen. And a lot of them are pretty much the same as what are in the other videos. There's been some changes, but we're just going to put it all together here. So I'm going to pause and turn myself back on in about 10 minutes and take it from there. Okay, we're getting close to the point of excitement. So just as a reminder, the programming, the anchor point for the programming is the top of every hour, where a station ID goes out, and then, when it's just automated programming time, the playlist keeps chugging on. And when a show is about to start, like it is in just a couple of minutes here, that show needs to be put in the playlist. So I'll ask you to watch a couple of spots on the screen. The event window is very static. This is where you go to set everything up. The only thing that's dynamic there is in the left-hand column the countdown to when any one event is about to trigger. Station ID, you can't see it, I'm sure, but it says 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And then also my event that's going to put in a 2-hour music show, heavy metal, is also about 2 minutes 30 seconds away. When the station ID happens, you're going to see something pop up down here in the log window, and I'll tell you what that is to the best of my knowledge in a second. And then over here is the playlist window. Now this is the 24-hour playlist that was automatically generated yesterday for today. It gets kicked on at midnight and keeps going. And so this Foghat song that's currently playing started at 3:55, and right now you'll notice that at 4 o'clock, you can't read it, but it's Billy Joel's Piano Man is scheduled to start at 4 o'clock. So where is this show that's going to play at 4 o'clock going to come in? Well, we're about to see. Okay, 16 seconds to the station ID event. I've got my remote to turn up the volume so you can hear the station ID when it plays. Now, watch the log window down in the lower left.
This is WVLP LP 103.1 FM, community radio for Valparaiso.
Okay, so a couple of things happened there. This volume down button is not working very well. I wonder if my batteries are dying. Okay. So what happened was there at the top of the hour, the station ID event played. You could see it flashing bright red when it was about to turn on. When it ran, down here in the lower left, you saw the log disappear and one little command line showed up. That was the station ID. Now, what's happening with the music in the show? Well, according to this window, Billy Joel's Piano Man is playing, but that's false. You probably can't hear it now because I've turned it down, but in the background, what's happening is my 2-hour show that's been pre-recorded is now playing. So the playlist is playing, it's going, but it's not being broadcast. This particular show right here, it's in blue. You don't need to see the details there. That's the show that is now playing, and I can hear it through the speakers. And it will be playing for the next 2 hours, at which point the playlist is going to take over again. Okay, so how does all this happen? Well, a lot of this stuff is in those previous videos that I posted, so I'm not going to repeat all of that, but I'm going to give you a quick guided tour. So to do 24/7 automated programming, right, you need to have a playlist in the background going to fill your air so you never have silence. You need station IDs at the top of every hour, and you need to be able to drop in shows. All right, so let's start with generating a playlist. That's the event that's in blue. Again, you can't see the details yet. If you have an event set up, you can click edit and see the details. Now I'm going to open a bigger window for that, or it's not a window, it's a screen capture. I've got a bunch of these all set up for you. Station ID event. Well, this is the station ID event, so let's start there. I have this set to play every half an hour. Now, technically, the station ID has to go at the top of the hour. For my testing, I'm putting it also at the bottom of the hour. There are several things going on in here. There is the command in this window up here, which actually executes playing the playlist, playing the station ID. This time is irrelevant at this point. This is the first time that it was supposed to happen after the event was created. But from that point on, we have the weekdays checked, and every weekday is selected with a repeat every 30 minutes. So again, that time is at this point irrelevant. This event is enabled to make sure it happens. And here is what I wanted to draw your attention to when it started, which was that takeover down there in the lower left corner of the log file. This overlay playback option is selected. And what that means is that while the playlist is doing its thing, being automated, running 24/7, this particular event opens up in a second window, so basically a second channel, which is now going to sit on top of the playlist. And this little dial here has a set playlist level 2. And I have it set to 0 because we want the playlist to go completely out while the station ID comes in. But I suppose if you had your playlist and you wanted it to be soft in the background, you could adjust that a little bit. This is different from a show. A show is actually going to be incorporated as a playlist item. And here's why. We discovered that early on that if we set our shows, like a regularly recurring show that plays every weekday at 4 p.m. or whatever it is, if you set that like this event to overlay the playlist, even if you set the playlist audio level down to 0, it would still bleed through a little bit. And this was particularly noticeable at the receiving end of the broadcast. Like you're driving around in your car, you could hear the playlist still just ever so slightly in the background of whatever show was supposed to be playing, and that wasn't good. So we learned to switch the shows over to actual playlist items, again, as opposed to this station ID, which is just going to play in its own separate little mini player. The playlist levels are going to get brought down to close to 0, and the station ID is going to play at the standard volume, and the playlist just faded out. The station ID played, and then the playlist got brought up. It didn't terminate a song from the playlist or anything, just faded it down, faded it back up again. So that's what's going with the station ID. And just to show you what's in this window up here, the playlist command for the event, there, that's better. So in that upper left-hand corner, it says get file, and then in quotes there is the path name to where our station IDs are stored, in quotes, and then /random, which grabs a random file from that station ID folder, so you're not listening to the same one over and over. So that is the station ID playing at the top of every hour. Try to click the cancel button. It's a screenshot. Okay, the generation of a daily playlist. Let's take a look at that. Now, I happen to have this running at 7:45 p.m. the previous night. It's going to crank out a 24-hour playlist for the following day. Here is the event that does that. So again, if you're in the event window, highlight it like I had it highlighted, and you can click edit right there and then open it up, and then there it is. Okay, so the task name here is generate daily playlist. That's what shows in the little event window, so you can quickly tell what event it is you're looking at. And like I said, it's 7:45 p.m. The day before. It will create the playlist for the next day. It does this every weekday, and it doesn't repeat. So in the station ID, I said that this particular time thing was irrelevant, and that's because the event was being repeated every 30 minutes. In this window, there is no repeating, and so on every weekday that's selected, this event takes place at 7:45 p.m. Because this is not an audio event, nothing plays, all we have to do is enable it, and then there's no other flags in terms of how it interacts with the regular playlist. The command that's up here in the window, there we go, run playlist generator pro.exe with a certain preset that's called upon, and it's the full day preset with a destination out file, and this is going to get dumped into a folder that's specifically for playlists, and then here it creates a file name with some wildcards in it. Now the wildcards are discussed in my previous videos, so I don't want to belabor that too much. as well as just the fact how you don't have to type these commands in manually. You can use the menu-driven event system to generate these, and then this command is created through that menu system. But if you do like just typing things in or seeing what the details are, this is the detail. But this command will create a file called playlist dash, like today for me is June 30th, tomorrow is July 1st. So when this runs tonight at 7:45 p.m., it's going to create a file called playlist dash 2023. The question mark Y is the wild card for the current year. Dash question mark MM, so that'll be 07. Sorry, that'll be today is June 30th. So question mark MM will be a month wild card. I'm going to hold off on what it's actually going to become. And then dash question mark DD, again, a wild card for day. Dash 24, now that's going to be hard. It's not a wild card. That's just going to be appended to the file name there because it's a 24-hour playlist. And then .m3u8, that's the RadioBoss extension for a playlist file. Now, the question mark plus 1D, that is an incrementation that goes on the day counter. And so I had to stumble realizing today was June 30th. When you add one day to the current date, that's going to result in a month of 07 and a day of 01, because today is June 30th, 0630. But because we're asking RadioBoss to add one day to its identifiers, well, that's going to change from June 30th to July 1st. So this is creating on today, June 30th, this is creating the playlist for tomorrow, July 1st. And so this extension on the playlist file is going to be 2023-07-01-24. Okay? Now, having generated that playlist, then at midnight, you want to play the playlist. So here's that event in the list. It doesn't matter where it is. For what time I'm sitting in here, there's a countdown of about 7 hours and 50 minutes until midnight, which is when this command will kick in. And this will take the playlist that was created at 7:45, and then at midnight, plus a few seconds, it will start playing that playlist. This whole playlist window will reset and start with that new playlist. So let's look at a couple of details here. Here is the event window for that. Nope, not you. There it is. So this is the playlist playing event, the task name, which I made up, play daily playlist, 24 hours. It's going to happen every weekday, Sunday, Monday, all the way through Saturday. There is no repeating. Therefore, it's going to take place once at the time of 12 o'clock midnight and 10 seconds after. That extra 10-second buffer gives time for the station ID to complete. It's an enabled event. Basically, they all are. Otherwise, you can have them in your list but not yet executed by unchecking that if you want to save them for later. And so what this is going to do with this file name, which I'll show you blown up here in a second, is it's going to look for the proper playlist file name. It is going to populate the playlist window with all of those tracks. And here's some more details. Down here, a couple of things checked. It's going to remove the previous schedule from the playlist. So the previous day stuff and gone. Clear playlist, everything from the previous day gone. So the playlist window is just going to start from scratch, and it's going to insert the playlist songs as regular playlist tracks, as opposed to perhaps starting it in that secondary player like the station IDs are going to be using. Okay. Here is the playlist playing command that you couldn't read in the event scheduler, so it's just a file name. That's all it takes. The path name to where the playlists are stored, and remember, today's playlist, if I'm now sitting here on July 1st, today's playlist was created last night, June 30th at 7:45 p.m., but it was created with today's date information in the file name with the wildcards. And so this command is going to look for playlist-2023. What day is it? July 1st. So -07-01. Then the -24 that is just part of the file name design that we create, .m3u8, which again is the RadioBoss playlist extension. Okay, So that is how this playlist window gets populated. So tonight at midnight, all this stuff that's in here from today is just going to get swept away. The new playlist is going to get put in, and the very first song in that playlist will start playing, and it will keep going from there. And if you have no shows, you can just keep this going 24/7, and now you're done, because every day you're going to generate a playlist for tomorrow, and then at midnight the next day you're going to play that playlist, and yeah, you're ready to go with 24/7 automated programming. Now, if you have shows that you have created and you want to play at particular times, well, that's where the show events come in. So the music that's playing now, I don't know if you can hear it, I don't want to start messing with the volumes, but the playlist says that Yanni is playing, but that is not Yanni. That's because my show file is being executed, and I guess this is a drawback. That see, now it's not going down. There it goes. That's a drawback here, that other than knowing the event is going, there's no indicator in this RadioBoss window that that separate file is playing. But it is what it is. Okay, and I suppose that's good in a sense, because if this file was corrupted for my 2-hour show, it would revert right back to this playlist again. All right, so how am I playing the shows through this event? Well, first of all, I used Audacity to create the show, and then I gave it a file name that I made up whatever standard file name I'm going to have for my show. So here is the event window that goes with the show. There's a command here which goes much like the station ID. It just looks for the file. The command is just a path name with a .mp3 .mp3, because this 2-hour show is created as an MP3 file. Because I am doing a test, I just have a couple of these shows, and I'm just playing them over and over and over here at home just to make sure everything keeps running. But at the radio station, my show goes on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. and then it replays Sunday at 8. So I might have just Wednesday at 8 p.m. Set in here, no repeats. The repeat is not what we want to use for this, because you can't repeat every 4 days. I suppose I could figure out how many minutes it is between the first showing and the first instance and the second, but that would be silly. But the command line here, which I'll show you in a second in a bigger format, reaches for that file. This event is enabled, so for my testing here at 9 a.m. in the morning, every day of the week, this show will turn on until I provide a different file for it to play. And it will insert as regular playlist tracks. Now you might remember for the station ID, I used the overlay playback, and that turned on the station ID in that secondary player, so we could just drop down the playlist, hit station ID, it goes away, the playlist comes back up. That's not what we want to have happen here, because again, when we tried that a while ago, the playlist, if it's still going in the background, like for that event, would bleed through a little bit, and that's no good. So this, we're choosing insert as regular playlist tracks. And so that means that even though it's not showing in the playlist window, it basically is like a ghost item inside here. It's playing through the same sound channel as this playlist, and so we don't get that bleed through. The command for playing this show that was in the upper left corner of that event window is a path name to the show file, and then the show file name .mp3, and so I just use 230614.mp3. That's the file that I had sitting around that I want to play. In long-term purposes, like at the radio station, you might want to create this file name with $YY, $MM, $DD, so that you have a folder that's filled with 20 different versions of this show, Somebody just made the new one that's going to play this week. They dump it in that folder. Now there's 21, and that file name is formatted consistently with all the rest, and this command would know using wildcards to go grab the right show on the right day. For me at home, I'm not doing that. I'm just playing the same dang file over and over at the same time every morning as I keep this thing going. If you have a repeat like I do for mine, you don't want to make a second version of your file. So instead, what you do is you set up another event that on whatever day it is and whatever time that event is going to get triggered, it's going to look in the same directory as before, but then there will be this wildcard here minus 4D, which will look back to the date of 4 days ago and look for the properly formatted file name that goes with that date. Here in my replay example, I do have wildcards in the file name. So if this were to be executed today, June 30th for me, this command would look for a file called MM for my show, Mostly Metal, 23, where for the question mark why, 06 for the month, and then for DD, because of this counter dropping by 4, it's going to look for 230626, because today is the 30th, and this is saying look for a file that's dated for 4 days ago. So 4 days ago, that show would have played as it was, and then now it's going to get played again 4 days later because of this command for that replay. I hope that made sense. But you can see here, MM1, MM2, so the original and then a replay, right? That's what's going on there. And I think that does it. So yeah, that's what I've learned so far. The biggest thing we learned is for playing pre-recorded shows, don't do like the station IDs and have them play in the secondary window, because the playlist could possibly bleed through a little bit. So the better way to do a pre-recorded show, again, is to insert it as a regular playlist track, which basically has it replace whatever in the current playlist for that period of time. The other thing I should mention, I'm glad I opened this because I thought about it and then forgot. I have insert a sweeper before starting an event. This isn't working, and I don't know why. Sweepers are just like informal station IDs or little mini files, 20, 30 seconds long, whatever they are, something you want to stick in between a couple of songs. There is a folder on my desktop which has sweepers in it. This button right here in the event window is where you set that folder location. I have done that, and so theoretically, when this show is due to start at whatever time, it should play a sweeper right before it begins. It should look into that folder, grab a sweeper and play it, and it's not doing that. And I don't know why. It's not working at the station for any of the shows. It's not working here, so I'm not sure what's up. But that's not crucial, right? The station IDs are the crucial thing, and the more informal, every 20 minutes, like a sponsor mention or another station ID type of thing, those are built into the rotation that's generating this whole playlist. And I guess I forgot to show that before, so since I have my window or my directory open, I might as well show it to you. Again, I'm not going to recover the whole thing. Just go back to the older videos I had that talk about creating rotations, which then get turned into playlists. But the idea here is that you have categories of files. There's station ID files for us, jingles, liners, sponsor mentions, which like for NPR, this show is brought to you by whatever. We have things similar to that. And then a block of easy listening music for 10 minutes and a block of rock for 9 minutes. Those are the categories that we file our files, our MP3 files under. And each one of these things, this is a static image, so I can't click it and show you, but each one of these, if we were to double click it, would open up another window, and one of the things is, hey, what folder are these, the things that fall under this category, where are they located? So that then, as you take these categories and just drag them in whatever order, over and you build your rotation. So my rotation starts with a station ID, then there's 10 minutes of music, a jingle, another 10 minutes of music, a liner and a sponsor mention, and then another 9 minutes of music, and that's a 30-minute block. And I could keep dragging these categories over and making it some other pattern. But then down here, I'm asking for a 1-day playlist, and so it's going to repeat this rotation 24 times. 48 times. Because this is a half an hour rotation. We're filling up 24 hours, so that's going to be 48 repetitions of this rotation. So that every half an hour follows the same thing, but then it's randomizing the files that it's grabbing and the jingles and whatever it's using. And boom, there's your 24-hour playlist that then gets loaded up into this window every day at midnight to start the day's programming. I feel like that was just a jumbled mess because I'm kind of winging this, as you couldn't tell. With a little editing, I should be able to trim this down, but hopefully it was useful. If you have any questions, you can drop me an email and I can try to answer them, but I still don't feel like I know more than about 5 or 10% of this program. But it was enough to get us started at the radio station, and we are learning as we go along, but that's where we are right now. And it's working, so I hope this helped.